Welcome James Harris, founding partner of N4MD. That's N, the number 4, the letters MD.com. Right? So not only are you the founding partner and CEO of N4MD.com, you also were the co-founder of Elemental, right? The interactive communications consultancy. A proud alum of Tennessee Technological University, right?
Correct.
I'm just making sure my research is here. Devin do his work. More than 17 years of experience in the interactive industry, and through your course of career has worked with an extensive amount of companies like AT&T, Coca-Cola, General Motors, Georgia Pacific, Holiday Inn, IBM, Pfizer, Turner, and UPS. And N4MD helps media companies, consumer brands, professional bloggers repurpose their content into ebooks and e-magazines by leveraging publishing relationships with social magazine apps and ebook marketplaces. All that true?
Yes.
And the proud father of 2 daughters?
Yes.
Right?
One graduated today.
And met your dad who came into town for Morehouse graduation, proud yes. Morehouse man, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Just a boy from Decatur, or just a kid from Decatur, as you say, right?
Yeah.
All right. So James Harris, why we wanted you on today, because you've built up a very successful agency, and over the years have started other businesses. But as each business has been created, the size and the shape and the way you office changed, right?
Correct.
So can you walk us through what was that first company? What did it look like, and how big of a space did you have?
Sure. And can everyone hear me? Is this good?
Yep.
So Elemental Interactive was started, late 1995. There was a guy named Rick Anwell. He had a small space at King Plow Art Center. He'd been consulting with Lou Gerstner, who at the time was leaving American Express to go work for IBM and become CEO. And they needed some communications help, and he convinced them that this multimedia thing was real. And so we had worked on a project for Mr. Gosweda, the Coca-Cola company, actually Coke's very first website, called the Galaxy of Coke. And we convinced IBM to let us have 80 people in a warehouse and build out their first sort of senior management communication. So we were very successful. Walter Mossberg of the Wall Street Journal said Lou Gerstner gets it. And we became IBM's de facto interactive communications team for 7 years. So lots of flights between Atlanta and LaGuardia. We grew the business to have 11,000 square feet at King Plow. We opened an office in Vail, Colorado, very small space, and then we opened a nice size office in San Francisco as well. And it was the good old days of the internet, boom, you know? We were really fortunate to sell the company late '99 to a company called Gray Advertising in New York. And traditionally, agencies like having space, and so they had lots of offices, and we just became a collection. I remember the CFO of Gray Worldwide saying one day, well, if you guys will move to Oakland, I'll buy you a building. And I thought that was slightly excessive, but you know, some agencies, they have the cash to do that. And so in 2003, they decided they wanted to get out of the interactive business. They shuttered 15 companies, 2 were left. One company had a week on its earnout left, and I had 3 years. And so they sold me the company back for a small sum and became my partner in it, and we reconsolidated everything to Glenwood Park. So we were one of the first tenants of Charles Brewer's idea of creating this sort of new urbanism community in Atlanta. And we shrunk everything down to 1,000 square feet. So roughly from 20,000 square feet to 1,000 square feet. Getting a little feedback on the mic? Thank you. You can't? Does this help? Okay, I'll pretend like I'm Michael Jackson and sing. So we decided to make everyone full-time contractors, consolidate to 1,000 square feet, and our profits didn't change, and our revenue stayed the same. And it was shocking to me, the man who, you know, spent $100,000 on a raised concrete floor at King Plow, that we could actually function out of 1,000 square feet. But we learned something that I think holds true even in Hypepotamus, which is the idea of CPG. So it's context, proximity, and gravity. Right? So the people who needed to see each other every day, they were in the 1,000 square feet. The programmers didn't want to see other humans anyway, they just wanted to program at home. So we allowed them to do that, and they became highly productive. And we really got down to a proximity question. We left our clients in the Northeast, stopped traveling. I had daughters, and so 80% of our business came from Atlanta. So the proximity really helped us. We didn't need to be in San Francisco or New York any longer. We just decided to pick new clients. And then the gravity became really important because as people moved from agency to agency, we were able to pick up talent as they moved around. And so creating a sense of gravity around Glenwood Park, we had the coolest interactive office in the city. So people would come hang out and have beers with us on weekends and on Friday evenings. And so we built enough gravity where we could really pull in great talent. And so as I ended Elemental Interactive to start N4MD, we were part of the Flashpoint program, and Merrick's vision of having this sort of bomb shelter approach of creating startups was very enlightening to us. We were extremely productive.
What is Flashpoint, for those who aren't aware of it?
So Flashpoint is Georgia Tech's version of Y Combinator. It's an accelerator program. They let in roughly 15 to 20 companies per cohort, and we were part of the very first cohort, January 2011. And you're mentored and coached, and at the end you have a series of demo days that you go through that hopefully prepare you to be a better startup and prepare you for the real world.
Yeah.
So,
and the next one is June 4th at the Historic Academy of Medicine, if you're wanting to see what this cohort demo day looks like.
Right, and so to finish up, we learned a lot from Flashpoint's model of tables you move around, chairs roll around, you can tape on the floor, you can throw things on the wall, but you need to be focused on work. And so when we moved into Hypepotamus, we were the first team to actually move into this space. I mentored other Flashpoint teams and encouraged them to move across the street as well. So going back to CPG, the proximity and gravity has really helped us, because now we have sort of this I hate to call it a mafia, but sort of a cabal of sort of Flashpoint grads that really can be effective in making things happen. So for example, in less than 48 hours, I think 5 different companies are going to Internet Retailer next week. And it all started with one conversation, and we just sort of went around the building and decided we'll hop on the same flight, we'll go together, and we'll sort of hunt as a tribe together with an Internet Retailer in Chicago.
So it's gone from organizations with very large real estate footprints,
Right.
smaller footprints, and now you're just shoehorning yourself into part of a 5,000 square foot workspace. Hypepotamus is been around a year. Started as that workspace, a collaborative workspace, but really has evolved into media and events. But the proximity of having people housed in this workspace seems to have all of the elements you're talking about, context and proximity and gravity.
Right, so there's a Ruby Rails meetup. Well, we develop our platform on Ruby and Rails, so it's easy to walk out of the office and come sit in and listen, right? That's the proximity and the context. The gravity is because 80 of the top Ruby developers are sitting in a room hanging out. There's real benefit there, and so I think that's key, right? That's really where the value is being created in space, physical space, because you can use online tools to sort of emulate that artificially offline, but in the real world, you have to sort of make that model work for you, or it makes no sense to pay rent.
Interesting. And so, what are you saying for the people that are coming to work for you now than they were, compared to 17 years ago? What are the expectations of people that are building these companies?
They want a nice laptop. That's sort of number one. They want internet, fast internet, and document storage. They want to know where the knowledge of the company is and where they can go connect to it, and they want fewer meetings. We've been successful. We have 2 one-hour meetings, and we're probably 3 times as productive as we have been.
2 a week?
2 a week, having daily 2 or 3 hour meetings that we artificially fill time, making sure we meet and draw on the whiteboard. So. Yeah.
So in Midtown, you have a lot of real estate players that have really invested in what Midtown is. And what would you say to those that are in the audience and watching this online? What do they need to be thinking about in order to facilitate this growth of these startups and these emerging companies?
Yeah. So it'll take a minute because I have to tell you another story. So when I sold the internet company, my wife and I decided to get into non-technical businesses. So we opened a organic market at Serenbe. Anybody know Serenbe? Yeah. We were Harrison Clark for 4.5 years, so we were the local organic market there. And you learn a lot selling groceries, by the way. So I would run the business during the week and sell groceries on the weekend. And what we realized in that 1,000 square foot grocery retailer, that store could have been 200 square feet and we'd have been much more profitable and had just as good an experience. So if any of you have been to the Ferry building in San Francisco, instead of renovating that to have 8 anchor tenants, they have like 50 tiny kiosks, right? So somebody comes in to buy mushrooms from the guy, but when you're gonna buy mushrooms, the baguette smells great, so you buy one of those, and next thing you know, there's value. This goes back to this gravity idea. So I think instead of building, it's my opinion, I've never built an office building, but instead of building a mega 30-story office building, you should really focus on a shorter building with smaller spaces that are modular that people can grow or shrink into, and allow them to find partnerships and friendships and context and proximity with other people that'll create value. Because in the end, if they're successful, they want more real estate, right? Yeah. And so it only sort of feeds your model. So consider it more of a greenhouse than trying to build an entire farm up front.
So is context also community? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. So, for example, the e-commerce school, I think Kevin, he called it yesterday or Tuesday, was phenomenal. I mean, I had no idea there was so much e-commerce in Atlanta, but they walked in the room for people who are in the web business and said, here are the 50 big e-commerce players in Atlanta. And that context, literally we shifted, I know 2 companies here that have shifted their business into thinking about e-commerce retailers as a play. So having a building that had a floor full of e-commerce people and a floor full of platform people and a floor full of fashion people, I mean, that building's going to create a lot of value versus the New York model, which is there's Soho and there's Greenwich Village. I mean, you have to literally sort of cross the city. If you could simulate that in smaller space, more thoughtful space, I think you'd be able to create a lot of value and attract a lot of businesses.
So for you, why Midtown? Why are you in Midtown Atlanta?
Because of Hypepotamus, well, that's one reason. But also because it's close to Georgia Tech. I mean, we had an opportunity to move up to Atlanta Technology Village. No slight against them, great people. But I walk to Flashpoint 3 times a day. We are working with Thad, the father of Google Glass. He's actually a Georgia Tech professor and hangs out at Moe's, so we stalk Moe's often. You know, I mean, like, there are things in Midtown that we need to connect to. So that's the primary reason.
So if someone wants to find you on Twitter, how would they find you?
Sure. So I'm JHARRIS, as in J Harris 9999.
Excellent. And I guess final thought, parting thought for you. What do you think, in a very succinct, tweetable thing, what does the future of work look like?
Gravity. You have to have gravity in the building. You know?
And how do you create that gravity?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of relationship building. It's a lot of mentoring. I mean, this is a question of every developer. Serenby, Glenwood Park, right? I mean, great residents, but no retail. Serenby, phenomenal life, but can anybody really live out there full time forever? I mean, all those things in development you have to really think through, and it really takes a courtship of the right people to make it work.
James Harris, N4M, thank you very much.
Thank you.